Anxiety is the other side of the coin of depression. Actually, when you're anxious, you are probably going to get prescribed antidepressants.
True.
So you have talked to us about, or to me, and to whomever will listen to this, that there is hope for depression, that the key lies within you. You have the power. Can you shed some more light how, for by this same token, it would also apply to anxiety?
Of course.
Please? Thank you.
Can we go a little deeper into this?
Yes, please.
If you observe carefully and very impartially, then I happen to observe this phenomena because my mother was very anxious by divine architecture. And anxiety happens when you are very insecure. You're very insecure. You don't have a robust enough sense of self, a robust enough, strong sense of self, and you're not well established within yourself. Then you have invested too much. You become very dependent on outward objects and other people who are in the family or who could be friends. There is a dependence. And whenever there is dependence on others, even though they can be even husband and wife, then fear will take birth from that dependence. And then because the future is very bleak and future is very uncertain for everybody, how can you be certain about the future? So if you have made an investment in the future, and at least if you think that that is your only ray of hope, that investment in the future, and you are hovering around the future rather than abiding in the present, then the future becomes very important for you. And because the future is fundamentally uncertain, and your own voice of truth will tell you, but how do I know that this is going to happen? You want something to happen, and but your own voice of truth will tell you, how do you know that this is going to happen? So you're going to become very anxious of an illusory truth on which to which you latched on. You latched on, and in the whole thing there is no understanding at all. There is just some unconscious groping, and you're not quite aware of what yourself is doing. You're not quite aware, and therefore the anxiety will continue. And to alleviate that anxiety, so it goes to insomnia. You're not able to sleep at night. Then you go and visit a psychiatrist, and then he prescribes some antidepressants. And the whole of that is a wrong line of treatment from my point of view. And you have to realize that you're not living in the present, and you're not living in the present because you don't have a good enough sense of self. And your best investment will be to get that sense of self by knowing yourself, by studying yourself very carefully. And that cannot happen in a day's time, in a week's time. Just by going to some international retreat is not going to happen to you. You've got to work on it.
Or going to the psychiatrist by that same token.
Yeah, by that same token. Not going to happen. You've got to start systematically working on yourself. But if you are prepared to work, then definitely you will come to the sense of good self. And in that is implied that putting thought in its rightful place. Now, in an anxious person who is very anxious, then thought is not in its rightful place. The thought has kind of overstepped its limits, and thought is overactive in a sterile manner, not in a fertile manner, in a sterile manner, in an area which is fundamentally uncertain. And by hovering around that area, and by groping in the dark around that area, you're not going to make the future certain, are you going to? No, you're not.
I want to pick up on two ideas that you touched upon. It would seem that anxiety derives into control.
Yes,
And control, therefore, comes from fear.
of course. Of course, you're absolutely right. But the control phenomena you're alluding to is a related neighboring phenomena to anxiety. It will happen in people who have a strong Mars energy. The Mars energy. Mars is the control freak. Mars is the manager who has executive control in the profession.
But it does come from fear, right?
Not necessarily from fear, but the desire for power and control. You want to be in control because you feel that if you're not in control, everything will go haywire. And you would rather bring those horses, wild horses back. The wild horses being your thoughts. Bring them back.
But isn't that fear?
Not necessarily, no. No, not necessarily. It's an activity of Mars. And Mars is the commander-in-chief in the Vedic astrology language. And he's the one who gives orders, and who is the one who blows the whistle, and who is the one who has got the baton in the hand to give you a whack. So he wants to keep his flock in a good condition. He wants to regiment his flock, and he wants to get work done through the flock. So he is the taskmaster, and he's the manager. And his job is to whip all guys and get work done. and therefore you develop that sense of control. And but coming back to anxiety, there's a lot to learn here, because the whole phenomenon of anxiety happens when you're not well established within yourself. And you made an investment unconsciously most of the time in the future and in somebody whom you think is your sheet anchor, whom you think is highly, highly dependable. But you're not picked up the fact, the corollary, that everything in the manifest world is uncertain, and you can't give a guarantee for that the person will remain the same. He could die also.
Somebody or something.
Something,
It doesn't
of course,
necessarily have to be a person.
Both animate and inanimate, both the things, they are subject to the vagaries of time, and time is not in your control. And therefore, you're basically asking for trouble the moment you make an investment in quicksand. Anxiety is all about that, making an investment in quicksand, and you're going to be disillusioned, and you're going to become more anxious. And therefore, what do? They take a whack, they take a stick and whack the nervous system with the antidepressant.
Yeah.
Not a solution. We need to have people who will be very, very patient with these anxious people, and then talk to them with great love and endless hours, and slowly make them understand. And it may take a long time, but that is the rightful thing. And all in all, finally, what does it boil down to? Finally, it boils down to there's so much of suffering in life. There's so much of it. And how can you live your whole life completely blind to the fact that there's no suffering in life? What kind of stupidity is that?
Yes.
So you got to, at some point or the other, acknowledge, when at all are you going to acknowledge that the essential nature of life is sorrow? The Buddha acknowledged it, and the Master Jesus, and the world teacher Krishnamurti, they are saying that sorrow is the essential nature of life, and you won't do it. Are you wiser than them?
No.
So everybody has to come here. I don't know why they're not coming here. That sorrow is the essential nature of life.
That is the purpose of these podcasts, so we can invite people, inspire people to look deeper.
Okay, hopefully
Thank you
we are
very
doing
much.
our little bit. Thank you, Sandraji. Thank you.